So welcome again to the new series of showcasing women editors in the Emerald family across the journals that we've got. Joining me this morning is Professor Rebecca Russell-Bennett from the University of Canberra. Good morning, Rebecca.
Good morning.
Well, thank you for your time again to share your expertise and experience being on the Emerald family. And can you just perhaps share with us your current role and your affiliations with Emerald?
Yep. So I'm the founding editor of a new journal, which started in July 2024, and that's the Journal of Social Impact in Business Research. And that comes after doing 10 years as the co-editor at the Journal of Services Marketing. So I've been an Emerald editor for, quite a while now.
Thank you so much. So in looking at your perspectives and reflections on the Journal of Services Marketing for the decade or so, what has the journal done in terms of its evolution and trends in the field?
So with Journal of Services Marketing, it went really through quite a transformation. So when I took over, the impact factor was about 0.6, so it wasn't 1. It was the first time there'd been co-editors, so it was myself and Professor Steve Barron. It was the first time that there'd been an associate editor team, so we set that in place. And then over the next 10 years, the impact factor is now almost 4. So it's, more than quadrupled. We've increased the number of submissions. It became a Q1 journal under our tenure, so the top 25% in the discipline. We increased the number of female authors quite significantly, and we increased the international profile of the journal. So when we took it over, it was very dominated by the United States in terms of authorship, and now I think the United States is less than about 30% of the authors. So I think there's been significant diversity. We've got 50% of the editorial team is women, so that's the editors, the 2 editors and the associate editors. So I'm really proud of that achievement of increasing submissions, increasing the impact factor, internationalizing, and making sure it's a very diverse and inclusive authors and editorial.
Thank you so much. And since obviously going through the time in the last decade, we've encountered things like the pandemic. And have you seen trends evolving in the area of services marketing and research in that time?
Yeah, we certainly saw a focus on technology. So certainly the number of submissions and publications that have come during the pandemic and after the pandemic around the role of technology, the friction points between humans and robots and AI has certainly escalated. We also saw a big spike in submissions in the first 2 years of the pandemic. I guess everyone was sitting at home with nothing to do, and they were busy, putting in their papers, and then it sort of dropped down a bit, and now it's sort of coming back to a bit more of an equilibrium. I think there was a big fatigue factor in the end of 2022, 2023, with people just being exhausted from it. And we did anticipate that would in fact happen when we saw that spike.
Sure. Thank you so much. And obviously it's growing. It's looking at that diverse submission pool from authors around the world. And then that led you to also mention the creation of this new journal. Can you tell us a little bit about this new baby to the Emerald family?
Well, I guess when I knew the 10 years at JSM, it was really a self-imposed deadline. I actually think that editors shouldn't have open-ended terms. I actually think there does need to be an end date, and even if you're doing a great job, I think having a refresh is important. I also think it's important to move aside and let other people have a go. So that was really my philosophical approach, and certainly it was also Steve Barron's, the founding co-editor with me, that every 5 years there would be some sort of change in the co-editor team, with tenure being 10 years. So I was coming up to my 10 years and I thought, what am I going to do next? And I thought, I've really, really loved being an editor. I have to say, being an editor of JSM has opened doorways, networks internationally for me that would never have been possible without that role. So I'm incredibly grateful. I've worked with fantastic authors, great associate editors. Honestly, it's been a privilege and a pleasure, and I've thoroughly enjoyed it. So while I knew it was time to hand the reins over of JSM, I didn't, I was still wanting to do something in the editorial area. And one of the areas in my own research field is it was frustrating that when I would work on a real project, so I would implement a program or do something that mattered in the real world, it was a real challenge to then publish the findings. And so
Mm,
I was able to publish on a theoretical basis, but what that meant is often diluting the message about what the program had achieved or what
mm,
impact we had made. And it felt really frustrating. There was no outlet really for business researchers to write up when they do something in the field without it getting caught up in high theoretical contribution, which means with word count and everything else that you end up not telling the story of what you actually did. And so I thought with the increasing need of business schools and academics to demonstrate research impact, and this is growing not just in Australia, but all around the world, that academics need to demonstrate their research impact. I thought that we needed a journal in the business area where there was an outlet for people to show how business theories and business frameworks can make impact. Alongside that, with all of the movement around universities needing to demonstrate impact, we don't have very good frameworks around, well, what is research impact? And we don't have any around our disciplines. So while universities are still trying to grapple with what is research impact and how do you measure it, I thought, what if we had a journal that did that? What if we had a journal that where you could demonstrate the impact of business theory and frameworks, and where you could put forward frameworks and theories about what is social impact in business research? And so really that's the purpose of the new Journal of Social Impact in Business Research, is to meet that need. And I guess it came from my own personal experience. This is the journal that I want to publish
mhm.
in.
Thank you so much. And then, yes, certainly a very timely one as institutions and organizations call for a wider recognition of what impact looks like beyond just the walls of citations and Higgs indexes.
That's
And
right.
so, in this new domain of this journal, what kind of papers would you call for, or would there be like special issues that you're hoping to develop in the next, say, 6 to 12 months?
I've actually got a list that I'm developing of around what I want in each different type of paper. So each paper actually will have a slightly different structure
Mm,
to get at what I want, to help authors so that we're not going through 5 revisions, where they're trying to
yeah.
guess what I want. So I'm developing that at the moment. And when authors contact me, what I'm doing is sending them out and saying, for this type of paper, here's the structure, because they're quite
Mm,
short pieces, between 4,000 and 6,000 words. So you need to really nail it.
mm,
So there's 2 types of papers broadly. One is about the conceptualization and measurement of what is social impact in business research. So what
mhm,
is the phenomena? And then the other is demonstrating the phenomena, which is showing how business theories and frameworks actually can be used in the field, in practice, to make impact. So really, it's theorizing about the phenomena and demonstrating the application of the phenomena. So they're really the 2 main domains that we want in the journal. And then within that, we've got a variety of different types of papers, depending on whether you've got data or whether or not it's more conceptual or like a commentary or a viewpoint.
mm. Thank you, and that's a very nice contemporary way to look at what papers should look like in a more snappy, short, succinct manner, allowing people to demonstrate social impacts in business research wherever they might be in the world. So thank you for that, and exciting to see the progress of this journal as well. I wanted to talk about the role of being obviously a co-editor or editor-in-chief and starting this new journal. How do we manage workloads? Because there's often a question people imagine on top of what they already do on a daily basis.
Yeah, look, that's a real challenge. And there's a huge workload in getting it started before you've even got one article submitted in the door. And I think I did underestimate the workload. So for me, I'm actually using some time on my weekends, which I don't normally do. I don't work on weekends. but I do need to at the moment just to get some head time. What I'm finding is I can't do this an hour here, an hour there. You know, when you're running a normal journal, you can just pop in, check the papers, you know, do that sort of thing. You
Mm.
can't when you're trying to start the journal. So even for me, what structure of the papers do I want? Because we're doing it differently. Sometimes I don't know until someone pitches an idea, and then I know, this is what I want. So I'm having to rework, you know, a lot of my own thoughts. Sometimes I don't know until I see it. I'm spending a lot of time reaching out and talking to people, helping authors work up ideas, having, you know, online video meetings with people around the world to generate the ideas. And I think part of the challenge is this is not a normal journal. This is not a journal that it's very obvious what the submissions look like. So for me, getting really good quality papers in to start with that will then become the role model articles for everyone else to go, oh, I know now what I need to do. That's the challenge. If it was just a normal kind of topic area, then people would know what the journals look like, and then they'd be quite confident in submitting. So for me, it's generating the right content that becomes the role model papers up front and giving people the confidence to submit. And that's taking a significant amount of time. Also, my choice to do this just as a sole editor rather than a co-editor. And I did think long and hard about it, but I've been a co-everything, typically with a man. And I decided it was time to stand on my own 2 feet, actually, as a woman, and lead in my own right. So rather than, you know, having that person doing it with me, I decided I wanted to demonstrate that a woman can do this. Now, that's not to say I won't take a co-editor on down the track. And certainly when I sort of know what I'm doing, I will probably do that and then mentor them into the role. So it'll be a younger person, so that there's a seamless handover when I decide to retire, but not yet. So yeah, for me, there was a conscious choice around being a sole editor and yeah, not sharing the leadership with a man.
Yeah, and thank you for that. On that note as well, what advice would you give for women contemplating this kind of a research leadership positions as they progress through their career?
Look, I think I've always done the opinion that if I think I can do it 80, 90%, then put myself forward. I don't wait, I guess, until I know I'm absolutely perfect and, you know, even overqualified. I think typically women put the brakes on themselves and they don't take that risk. You know, I've never started a journal before. I've never done it on my own. So, you know, that was a risk. And I've got to say, it's been uncomfortable. There have been moments where I've gone, you know, can I do this? But I think you got to trust your instincts, and you have to take a leap of faith. You've got to be willing to take that risk. And I do find that men are more willing to take that risk. They'll go on, I'm 80% confident I can do it, but I'll give it a shot. If it doesn't work, fine. But if it does, then I've got it. Women tend to wait, and research shows this. They wait until they're absolutely sure. And by then they've lost years or even lost the opportunity to someone else. So I think if you're reasonably confident, you don't have to wait till you're absolutely confident to give it a go. And surround yourself with good people. I've got a really good set of associate editors. And again, I've selected women and men. I've selected women of colour, women who represent different diverse areas. I've tried to have a really broad bunch of very talented people, but also I wanted to give opportunities to people who might be overlooked, you know, for a variety of reasons. So I see my role as an editor to give good people, talented people, a shot where maybe they might otherwise struggle.
Yeah, thank you for that. And you mentioned the role of mentoring and guiding others into their role into the future. Do you think we do that enough, this area of like almost a succession planning for incoming editors in chief?
Well, if you do it, it's not transparent. You know what I mean? I
Mm,
think it should be
mm,
pretty obvious to everyone who the person in waiting kind of is. There should be an
yeah,
idea. And, you know, and that's not to say you shouldn't then call for open expressions of interest. But I think journals work better when there is some kind of succession plan or handover. And so with JSM, Steve stepped down after the first 5 years. I stepped up to being a more senior sort of role, and then Mark Rosenbaum came in at that point. And so Mark and I had agreed that then when I stepped down, then he would take on that more leadership role. The next person would come in. So every 5 years there was a
Yeah.
handover, but it was a really seamless handover. I think where it's bad is if an editor stops and then a new person comes in and there's just been no co-working. I think you risk a decrease in that knowledge. So I think that's where the co-editor thing does actually work well, but you don't want both disappearing at the same time.
Yeah, and then that kind of seamless transition from one to the other,
Yeah.
because of the reputation and the kind of goodwill of the journal.
Yeah, and then that incoming person can see, well, what are the things that work, and they keep that. But the incoming person should then also make changes because that's why you've stepped down. So I took JSM as far as I think I could. And then I felt it was time to tap into a different theoretical area, different set of networks. I really felt I'd done as much as I was capable of doing with JSM. So I was keen to see someone coming in, and Christina Heinonen is now the new co-editor, and she comes from a different domain background to me. She comes from Scandinavia. So I'm really excited to see what she now brings to the role and the new things. And, I think it's always exciting when there's a new co-editor or editor that comes in. People sort of watch, and I think it enthuses, the community. So I'm keen to see what Christina does with the journal, and I really want to see it go to the next level.
Thank you for that. On final thoughts, just your reflections and experience with Emerald as a publisher. Have you seen that, and therefore the decision was clear to take this new journal with Emerald as well?
Yeah, look, I've been lucky in that I've had the same, publishing contact at Emerald. So that's Richard Whitfield. So he was the person who appointed me to JSM. He was the person I then naturally went to when I proposed the new journal. And I've got to say, having that continuity has been incredibly helpful. I think it's always problematic when you've got a lot of staff changes, and there has been a lot of change at a lower level with Emerald, with different people assisting. That's always challenging. So I have really liked having that continuity with Richard, and where we've got a good working relationship. He knows my style, I know his style. So I felt quite confident in approaching Emerald, for the new journal that I wanted to do.
And was there any area within the publishing portal or the system that you hope moving to the future that might be of assistance? Some have obviously discussed the role of AI for reviews and so on, but was there anything in particular that you hope that perhaps even publishers like Emerald can help support you in the journal?
I think it's really about open access, and I know that publishers are commercial organizations, totally get that. It costs a lot of money to put systems in place to ensure the integrity of the review process. It costs money to produce. I'm a business academic. I get that. The challenge, I think, is how do we make the knowledge open, to people, and that's the thing I just don't know. And it's a real dilemma. I know as an academic, I can't afford to pay for the open access fees. I do want the information to come out. What I do like about Emerald is they don't embargo the Word document version, like other journals. There's one journal that embargoes it for 3 years. And I don't think that's right. So I at least appreciate that Emerald does not do that and allows you to get that final Word document version out to people, particularly in countries where they can't afford access, or even to industry. So I think it's a dilemma. I don't know how to resolve it, but I think it's something that the publishing world is going to have to resolve. Otherwise, they may face non-profits coming in, or even universities themselves actually saying, well, we need journals that get science out there for free. So I think that's a big challenge for the publishing industry, and I don't have the answers for it. The other thing is AI. I don't think we should be resisting AI in its entirety. I think we need to incorporate it. The challenge is, how do you detect authors using AI and not giving it credit, you know, and I have seen papers come through that have looked very suspiciously like they've had it writing by AI. We don't have the systems to pick that up, like the plagiarism software. So we need systems to help us do that. But I think also we need to say, how might we use AI to speed up processes? You know, if reviewers were to use AI, how could we do it in a way that is has integrity? And I think we should be trying to leverage AI in our publishing processes, our research processes, but in a way that maintains integrity and doesn't cause the public to lose faith in science. And I think there's a real risk if we don't get onto this and don't leverage and manage the AI, that the mistrust of the public in science is going to, you know, rise, and that's not good for anybody. And I think publishers have a really strong role in that with systems. You know, maybe publishers need to collaborate together. Maybe there could be one super system that can detect AI that maybe all publishers use, you know, some third party or a shared platform. But, you know, it's hard to get reviewers. They're time poor. So saying to them, here's how you can do it as a first cut to give you kind of some ideas. And then you've got to, I think we need to do this. I just don't know how that needs to be done. And certainly open science is something that we need to grapple with. So open science and leveraging AI, I think, are the two biggest issues for publishers. And if they can do it well, then it will shore up their place and their commercial viability, as well as protecting science.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. And I think that also ties into the journal and the social impact, right? Getting the information out to the needy communities and stakeholders in a way that more and more can access that information. Well, thank you so much this morning.